Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Downtown Scoop, your Downtown Canton podcast. Downtown Canton Partnership podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Amanda Dukes, and this is my other co-host, Mike Sturdivant. What's up, Mike?
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm excited for our episode today. This is our guest is somebody who I think helps really help the heartbeat of downtown Canton and the things that are going on. So I'm probably my goodness, hype, pumped. I'm all of the things.
You're all the things. You're all the things. Yeah, this is going to be a great one for people in the community because 2 episodes ago on our inaugural first ever episode of the Scoop, we had my coworker at the partnership, Courtney Holder, on to talk about all of the partnership things. And one of the things we talked about was events, both events that are happening, how we're supporting them, our own events. But one of the things we talked about was how we are now in year 2 of the Downtown Partnership of running First Friday. And it is many people in the community city. This is one of their favorite events they look forward to. We just held our first summer one in May, which was Cinco de Mayo. And this is much like a podcast. It's an every month going thing. And was like, well, we can't do a podcast about summer events without bringing on my other coworker, Jonathan Becker, who is the golden ticket behind who makes
Thank you
for events, because it's all him. I mean, he's the one that comes up with the vendors and the food truck, all the things that you see. He is the magic behind it and that you get to experience. So we talked about, the whole point of this podcast was introducing you to the people that makes this happen. And this is one of those episodes where we want you to meet the person who makes the wheels go around, so to speak.
So the man behind First Fridays, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan.
We're going to learn how to do
I know, we need to put like a clapping thing
bring our applause in when Jonathan pops up.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us, first of all.
Sure.
We love to have you here, love to have you with us, and especially for the people of the community to really get to know who you are. So we really want to start with basically you telling us about the heart behind First Fridays and why it's important to the community.
Well, really, the primary objective of this event is to build community, to bring people together, to create a joyful experience for the attendees, for the downtown businesses, for our guests, both in the form of entertainers, as well as all of the vendors that we invite to be part of our event during the summer months, May through October. I guess October's not really summer, but it's
not Ohio.
On our calendar.
It's part of the outdoor events. So I mean, from my point of view, the event is really about creating a joyful celebration of Canton as a city. I'm fairly new to Canton. I came here in October of 2020 during the height of the pandemic, and I just think Canton's a jewel. It's an amazing little city with so much great things going on, and the potential for so much more is here. The downtown's pretty special in that way, and it's been really an interesting and exciting endeavor to create these events for the city. We learned a lot in our first year, got a lot of information back in terms of how to grow and how to improve. One of the primary parts of this job is me just sitting and listening to the public, listening to the businesses, listening to the vendors, and really then trying to cook up ways to cultivate a positive experience for everybody. And one of the things that we're doing this year that is part of the community building and trying to sort of bring families back downtown is the Kids and Family Zone in combination with the Youth Center, which is being sponsored by the YMCA Enrichment and walking with a purpose. We're all sort of partnering together to create a zone, really, where the kids can come, and anybody, like, from if you're 12 to 17, you can play basketball and use the swimming pool. And we have a dance party for youth going on in the YMCA during First Fridays. We've got places for the kids outside. Enrichment's running drum clinics, so everybody can pound on buckets and drums. And we've got free juggling workshops starting this month, happening every First Friday.
Can adults do the juggling workshops?
Absolutely.
I want to know how to juggle.
I want to bang on the drums, so Amanda and I are going to be there. Mini scoop.
Got it.
We're rolling it out.
I love that. I think that I've seen First Fridays kind of go through different phases. So I love that you're sitting down and listening and trying to implement all of these, not picking and choosing what's important. And for me, especially with our youth, I have children. My son will be 10 in June. My daughter is 14. So they're in these ages where it's like, I want to go have a good time, but I want my kids to have a good time too. I want them to be safe, and I want them to have a part in their city as well, so they can feel, proud to be here and like, hey, I have things to do. I'm from a great place. So I absolutely adore, like, it touches my heart. It's like my jam of having a place for my kids and for me. And I love my city, clearly. So I'm doing this amazing podcast so people can know the great things about it, so they can see what a gem it actually is. So I think that that's really important. I think that that matters. But again, I love that we have you on to talk about that, because the community, they don't know that. They don't know, hey, there really is somebody out there listening to our ideas. They care, that matters about the community of what we need, not just what the world thinks that we should have, like what matters to Canton. So to be very ambitious, I want to thank you for those of us who appreciate the efforts that is being put into all your hard work.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it's fun. The people are really, one of the things that I really love is interacting with people and building collaborative partnerships. And that really turns me on. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of interesting, poses a lot of challenges, great challenges to engage in all these different areas in the city. Really trying to re-inspire that come down, explore downtown vibe that First Friday used to have in its beginning stages 16 years ago, trying to reinvigorate both not only the participation of our local artists, but also those people who are interested in engaging with the artists and collecting and owning art, which also First Friday used to be very focused around, in addition to like creating new ideas and new vibes for an event that really is about the entirety of the community and all the different demographics. With Cinco de Mayo, we partnered with the Latino Fest folks to try and inspire our Hispanic community to participate more. That's a demographic that we really are interested in cultivating partnership with downtown. We translated the website into Spanish, and I spent a lot of time translating all of my emails into Spanish using a translator, and hopefully it's a good translation and I don't sound stupid. As I'm corresponding with vendors, even for June now, and we've got a number of Hispanic vendors who are coming in, so that's really exciting to me.
And that's important for the economy too, to have all different types of backgrounds, shapes, sizes, and everything come participate and feel welcome in whatever space that you decide to be in.
Yeah, well, ultimately, the goal is economic impact and economic prosperity. I come at it from the events guy that if people feel prosperous, they become prosperous. Or they feel prosperous, they're not as focused on the difficulty of the economics because everybody's joyful and having a great time. And so I come at it from a slightly different aspect than, say, maybe a business mind. I do run a small business. I don't know how I've ever been able to make that work, given.
Don't feel bad. Me either.
I'm the same, right?
Yes, all of us feel that
You know,
deeply.
I'm not motivated by money. It just, you know, I find it useful.
Right. I love that.
So the fact that those sorts of endeavors are successful to me are beyond my ability to comprehend. But nonetheless, it's just I often feel like, you know, when people are happy, then, you know, they need less from a monetary point of view. So then, you know, and also if people are happy, they tend to become more prosperous because they don't have a lot of obstacles in their way anymore. So, you know, it all works sort of as a symbiotic sort of motor that keeps everybody inspired and wanting more. And then the more and more we move forward, people then reach to solve the problems in the community rather than try to cultivate them, because everybody's kind of on board with the fact that we live in such a great place. And so that's really one of the long-term goals.
So Jonathan, you and I are kind of like, I think it's safe to say, like the OGs, two of the OGs of this DCP thing. We were kind of there from, I want to say day one, but even before day one, we came on a little earlier than expected because we've talked about we're in year 2 of the Downtown Partnership hosting First Friday, but this event's in year 17. And I remember early on we were having a lot of meetings with some of the business owners and the art galleries and hearing the perceptions of it, of what the event is. Because, when you're doing an event for 15, 16 years, whatever it's been, it tends to morph, right, and evolve. It started as an art crawl at a walk, and it turned into kind of a big community party. I think it's safe to say is what people know. But I love that you said we really listened to the impact or the that we received, or impact's not the right word, but we listened to a lot of the concerns, a lot of the ideas, hence the youth zone coming up and those things, and getting art re-engaged and really trying to focus on, Courtney even talked about this a little bit, touching all the parts of downtown, getting all the businesses engaged. And that's hard when you're trying to engage art galleries, you're trying to engage bars, you're trying to engage restaurants, you're trying to engage retail shops in one event. It's hard. But I think you've done a great job at that. But you also touched a little bit on economic impact. And, we talk about the whole point of the Downtown Partnership is supporting our downtown stakeholders, business owners. First Friday is a massive piece to that puzzle we're doing. So can you talk a little bit about the economic impact this event has on the downtown region as a whole, how it touches art galleries, how it touches restaurants, how it touches, all of the above, and how the work you're doing is supporting these small business owners, stakeholders, nonprofits, et cetera?
Sure. Well, I'll start out by sort of defining this term economic impact, because I think it's a new term for a lot of people, or people don't really understand what it is, because it's, in a way, it's an intangible. It's like a conceptual thing. So I'll start by saying, like, in 2016, live theater in America generated $13 billion worth of economic impact in the United States.
We're in the wrong business, y'all.
Yeah, that's actually a larger economic impact than, say, the agricultural industries or transportation, right?
Wow.
And so what economic impact means is it's not that people spent $13 million on theater tickets, because that's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. What that means is that when somebody bought a theater ticket, they got on a plane and flew to a city. They stayed in a hotel room. They went to dinner beforehand. They went to the bar after. They got in a cab or an Uber to go there and to come home. There's all kinds of sports events are like this also. They generate impact in a city. When Michael Jordan was playing basketball, anytime he stepped on the court in the city of Chicago, $6 million of economic impact for the time that he was playing basketball for a home game in Chicago, right? So he's generating all this money for everybody else, because everybody's like, ooh, let's go to the bar and see him. Let's fly to Chicago. Let's do this. Let's do that, right? So economic impact is all the activity that generates income around an event. So for First Fridays, what this means is that we're bringing a ton of people downtown. They're spending money in restaurants. They're spending money in bars. They're buying tickets to the events over at the Palace Theater. They're going into galleries and spending money. They're going into a retail shop and spending money. Or they're going into a place that they've never been before. They look around, they're like, oh, this place is kind of cool. And then later on down the line, a few months later, they're like, oh, you remember when we went into Modern Ritual downtown and they had those cool earrings? I want to get a second piercing. Let's go down there and do that in their shop because they had those cool earrings and they were such nice people, right? So it's an intangible in some ways. It's like a marketing event in a way where you do it over and over and over again, and pretty much, and then people start thinking, oh, well, let's go downtown. Instead of, say, Belden Village, let's go to a privately owned mom and pop restaurant to eat dinner because the atmosphere and the food's so much better than, say, going to a chain restaurant, for example. And that's really what that is, what that's about. It's about creating awareness in which then people spend money doing things that support the economics of an entire region. So that's really, I don't know, that's the long answer.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you really nailed is it's not just about First Friday night. Yes, those businesses get that, that bump on that day and start your month off right, but it's about that repeat. Like we always talk about, the point of the partnership is giving downtown that brand to say, hey, this is a competition with a Jackson or a Belden Village or all of those things. But we talked in our first episode about how it's a big city feel, but in a smaller, walkable, manageable zone. But it's about building that repeat trust in people to go, man, we need something to do tonight. Well, let's see what's going on in downtown, because maybe there's something at the Palace. Maybe there's something at the Plaza. Maybe there's something that you start to get people in that zone of like, this is a cool place to be. And one of the things you're doing exceptionally is going back to that youth zone. Not only is it a cool place to be, we can bring the kids with us. We can bring the family, because they're starting to discover those things that are going on. The family-friendly restaurant, Milestone, the board game bar, things like that. There's so many family-friendly activities. So you're just starting to get that repetitiveness in people's mind when they're looking for something to do. Say, you know what? Let's go to downtown Canton and check out what's down there. It may start with, I love one restaurant, or I may start with one retail shop. And then you start exploring as you've done a masterful job of spacing the event out all over downtown. So people go to 3rd Street, go to 4th Street. We're having those conversations of going down toward Walnut in the fall, finding these cool little businesses and learning to love them and learn to become repeat customers. You're doing a masterful job at that.
Well, we're trying. I think little by little, we're getting better and better at it. And of course, the goal is to make all of our downtown events, most especially First Friday, look like the entire city of Canton in terms of the people who attend and the people who come, and we get everybody interacting with each other, so that we're living in a place that everybody feels comfortable with everybody else. And that's really, for these big city events, that's really the goal.
I love that. For somebody who's not in the intricate details or the planning of it, this is the kind of stuff, like I said, that it really matters. It's the things that, are they thinking about everything? What is their thought process? There's tons of talk about representation within these meetings and things like that, how that matters, how that factors. So it for me, especially like on this platform, it's important for people to know that these things are being thought about. You may not be seeing all the people, you may not be seeing all the backgrounds, but they're there. You're being discussed, you're being thought of. And especially like you said, for Canton, like you want it to look like when you go anywhere in Canton, but you want it to feel, everybody should feel welcome. Everybody should feel, understood, and that there's a part for them, the adults, the kids, everyone. And downtown's doing a great job of even integrating all the different diverse businesses that they have down there. So it's really in its coming itself. Like you said, everybody should be able to come together, to interact, to talk, bring your kids or don't bring your kids. So I'm not judging. Sometimes sometimes you just want adult time. Okay, that's fine too. I'm just saying, we said everybody, okay? So
no shame in that game, parents. Don't worry about it. Find that babysitter. It's okay.
Listen, exactly. Mine are a little bit older. If I don't want to bring them, they're staying home. If I'm just you know what?
To be fair though, if your kids are between the ages of 12 and 17, you can bring them downtown, push them inside the YMCA, and then go do your thing. Correct. Because nobody over the age of 12 or over the age of 17 is allowed into the Y during the youth zone period of time, except for the background checked volunteers and the security presence that is there. So no actual adults are allowed in. It's a place exclusively for the kids. It's a space for them to enjoy themselves that belongs to them. And so you can feel confident allowing your kids to participate in that, because you as their parents not allowed in.
I feel like I have to have a disclaimer just in case those who grew up in my time remember the Y parties. It's not like that, guys. It's not that type of party. That's all I'm gonna say. If you know what I'm saying, if you know, you know. Okay, it's not that they're having a good time and they're not.
It's a supervised activity.
Say it again.
It's a supervised activity.
There you go.
There are responsible adults engaged in it.
I'm going to tell you my age. I was one of the Y's kids back in the late 80s, early 90s when the Y used to have their after school Y's Kids programs at the downtown one. Obviously, it's the Eric Snow Y now, and it was rebuilt about 10 years ago. But back in those early 90 days, man, I was a Y's kid back then. So I was very familiar with that downtown Y and grew up there. It was there in the J. Babe Stern Center because I'm a Southwest Canton kid. So it's those were my two stomping grounds back in those timelines.
I just knew I had to put it this way. I just knew somebody that I know was going to be like, oh, like we bringing that back? No, that's not what's happening, guys. It's not that kind of party. So with all the great things that you already have going on, Jonathan and Mike, actually, we want to hear some things that's coming up, maybe some surprises. We love a good insider here on the Downtown Scoop. So what can we expect moving forward throughout the summer and the fall for First Fridays in downtown?
Well, I mean, we're in our attempt to sort of recultivate the sort of artist vibe in First Fridays. We're actually paying artists to be present every month to create live.
Say that again. You're paying artists.
Yeah.
Come on, say that.
It's because I'm an artist and I've earned my living as an artist my whole life, and so I don't ask artists to do things for free. It's not an option. So we're paying our visual artists, or a number of visual artists, to be present every First Friday to create their art in the street and engage interactively with the public while they're doing it. Because it's always exciting to see how the creative process unfolds, how artists create, much like, the sculpting, the ice sculpting contests, or watching the sculptors sculpt the ice in January. It's a way of interacting with the creative process. So that's going to be happening every month now. We'll focus September's theme around that and just have more of it in September, because September is all about creating art live in the street. And I'll be encouraging the galleries to push their artists out onto the sidewalk and make them work outside during that period of time. And June, of course, Chalk the Walk. So obviously, that's an old event that everybody loves. So we'll keep doing it. And you can watch the chalk artists creating in the streets during that time. July, we're partnering again with the Italian American Festival, and that's still in the plans. For every month, obviously, the Youth and Kids Zone is always there. Last year I started working with Harmony Productions. They're our stilt walkers, who are always there. They're just, these two individuals are spectacular. They're just so much fun. They're interactive with the public. Matt always calls me like, "What's your theme this month?" And then this month it's Cinco de Mayo. It's like, okay, great. And then they showed up dressed as piñatas, these huge stilt walkers dressed up as piñatas. It was just ridiculous and so much fun. Like they're really great. They're there every month on their tall stilts, juggling and blowing bubbles on people and taking pictures, being joyful. Like it's really good. So they're there every month. August, of course, always the Hall of Fame, First Friday. We're exploring all kinds of ideas with stuff all the time to try to make things more interactive. So we'll see what we can come up with in August that's in that theme. As I said, September's the artist thing. We've been partnering also with the Canton Culture Collective, which is a new organization that is supporting the arts. This past month, they had a gallery crawl, which we'll be repeating throughout the year. Not every First Friday, but many First Fridays. Anybody can join that. And then we've got in October, we're actually doing a food truck themed First Friday.
Yes, look, us foodies over here. Yes.
Yeah, we're partnering with Happy Time Incorporated. They're the organization that puts together all the food truck events in Northeastern Ohio.
Yeah.
And they're partnering with us to create this event for us. So hopefully we'll have, my goal would be like 30 to 40 food trucks downtown. So that'll happen in October. November, again, we'll be doing the Giving First Friday. Yes, we can. And we'll be creating can art sculptures all over downtown. Last year, after the event was over, we donated 6,500 pounds of food to the area food banks. So all those can art sculptures were then donated afterwards. I have a couple emails from schools this morning that are interested in also helping with that event. So we'll have more organizations participating with us. All those can art sculptures were built by the kids of the STEAM Academy at Hartford. They also collected the food. They made recipes up for them. They did the letter writing. It was an entire curriculum that involved the entire school. So it was pretty great. And we're trying to get the Stark County schools involved in that now. That initiative is started. And the STEAM Academy kids are also painting all of our downtown dumpsters. And it's spectacular, the artwork that they're creating. It's so exciting. And it's surprising what an impact those painted dumpsters have had. Because the first one that got painted, like literally there was this explosion of joy downtown. People are like, what's going on with the dumpsters? It's so great. I'm like, really? They just painted a dumpster. But actually, it is really quite wonderful. They're joyful. And as a receptacle for trash, if you can create joy out of that, that's a thing.
Well, it's changing shifting. Yeah, you're shifting the culture. It's just an easier way to look at it, and it's not that we're simple-minded, but it is the small things that kind of spark those things inside of us. Like we are complex creatures. Like we have so much going on, so many things to think about. So for something so simple to just be easier to look at, it has like this domino effect, like you said, like it just brings joy, and we may not even notice it. We may not understand it. But it happens. It's just what happens when you give out that type of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've already booked events and planning through February of 2025. And we're starting some discussions about the future months next year already. So we're really trying to get further ahead down the road so that we can do some pretty innovative and exciting things. And then more importantly, just keep reinventing the event every month, so that if you've come down once or twice, you couldn't possibly have experienced it. And you need to keep coming back. And every time you came back, it would actually be different. And there'd be something else to discover. And that'll be the challenge as we get into, year 4 and year 5 and stuff like that, is to not like sit back and say, well, we've done this before, and now we can just like do our thing. So yeah.
Well, something I think is great is you guys put the partnership in Downtown Canton Partnership. If you guys, wasn't listening, every event, every First Friday, it had like a domino effect that included something else. They partnered with students from SEAM Academy. They've partnered with other businesses. They're partnering with artists. Like, this is the point of bringing the community together to really feel good about it and enjoy yourselves and have a good time, because we work hard. We deserve one Friday a month, guys.
Can I throw in something I want to give Jonathan credit for? Because you talked about including the community and working with the great people with the Latino Fest, because they're killing their event. And I mean, I went to that last year and it was so much fun, but them jumping in and helping us with ours. And as you said, helping with some of the translations, introducing us to some of their food truck people. But when we talk about not just listening to feedback we were giving, and feedback, I didn't mean to say impact earlier, I meant feedback, but playing on it. This isn't just Jonathan coming up with these things. He put a committee together featuring downtown business owners, a restaurant owner, an artist, a retail shop owner. These are people that have their business done. These are stakeholders, we call, and they can kind of give the voice. I mean, obviously you can't have a committee with 120 people. Nothing will get done, but there's representation from every single restaurant, a retail shop, whatever it might be, a nonprofit on there. And it's a very diverse committee as well. So it's listening to that. And then they can go back to their partners, Nicole at Fromage, going to the restaurants, Barb going to the retail shops and saying, hey, what did you see? What can I take back? And then being kind of that middle ground to help Jonathan make those future decisions. But that's another thing that I think you're doing a fantastic job of, is being plugged in and listening to your partners that you have set up.
Yeah, well, I said this in my meeting this morning with some of the other members of our team. I really don't, in creating these types of events, I don't think about it as my event. And I don't think about it as our event. It's an event that belongs to the public, the people who actually come to it. They're the reason that we put it on. And if they're not having a positive experience, then the event's not successful. Exactly. And because we're also using the event to create a positive vibe for the city of Canton, then it also belongs to the people who make the city economically successful, which is our businesses. And it's not really mine to run, invent, and or give my soul like creative spirit to, because there are a lot of things that I think are great that really nobody else does, and they should just so it's really important that it belong to the other. And the only way to do that is to sit down at a table with other people and listen and work together. And that's not to say that process is ever easy, because because everybody's got their want, their need, their opinion. I have no opinions, of course. Mike knows this.
I think that's what makes it beautiful, though. That's the point of how you can touch all different types throughout different platforms, is that those difference of opinions.
Yes.
So if you didn't have difference of opinions, then you would have the exact same event every time. So,
well, and oftentimes you have to sometimes have a little bit of this in order to create something that's more dynamic.
Absolutely.
You talk about the importance of providing diversity into the planning of our event, and you think about people's backgrounds. Like, you have a much different background, not being from this community, being an artist, than Nicole at Fromage has, than Barb has at Canology. And now, bringing in, you talked about enrichment, walking with a purpose, bringing in two stellar people in our community, Miss Betty Smith, who is the staple of our community, and somebody you introduced me to, Latoni, over at Walking with a Purpose, who also is becoming one of my favorite people. They have much different backgrounds, where they come from, that's shaped who they are, that they're bringing to our event in downtown. And you're starting to see First Friday become like a good mix of all of these different ethnicities and backgrounds. And I think that's really starting to show in the event that comes out. And it's a beautiful, positive thing, as Amanda said.
So you guys are doing a great job. We are going to continue this amazing work in downtown Canton. And Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing your insights, your knowledge, and your process here. And we look forward to more.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you on because you did a good job of talking about summer, but you kind of started laying the crumbs down about the winter events. So we're definitely going to bring you back in the fall to talk about December, January, February, because I know some of the stuff you've got planning, and it's amazing. And January is one of our most popular themes, and so it'd be very exciting because I know some of the changes you're working on to enhance that and not get stagnant, as you said. So we're definitely going to bring you back on in the fall and talk about those winter events because you're doing some great things with it.
Well, thanks. I'm really good at spending other people's money.
There you go. Okay. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. And so we'll talk to you in the winter.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Bye, guys.
Wow. That was incredible. I'm so excited for people to really, you guys get to learn a little bit more about what's going on and behind the scenes and things to come. We set you guys up a little teaser. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you guys stay connected. If you haven't already, please follow the Downtown Canton Partnership on Facebook and Instagram. And make sure you subscribe to the Downtown Scoop and Downtown Canton Partnership YouTube channel.
Yeah, we got some cool things. We kind of talking about cliffhangers. You and I have been talking about rolling out something called a mini scoop, and I think this one of these First Fridays might be a good one as we're talking about the youth zone. That might be a good mini scoop feature, coming up for these summer events. So
I love that, Mike. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much to our audience. We appreciate you guys, and we'll be back with more scoop next time.
See ya.
Bye, guys.